venture studios, I believe, find themselves in between the venture capital and the private equity worlds and spaces. If you think about venture capital, they raise funds and they deploy capital into startups and really hope, I call it spray and pray. They might deploy capital into 20 companies and hope, that one or two of them will hit and become, the next Uber, which can be a risky model for investing and also for how you build startups. In today's environment, the way that AI tools and AI building exists now, things are more efficient. We're building faster with less capital, with less headcount. And so you don't necessarily need to raise 30, 40, $50 million and hope for a billion or multi-billion dollar valuation to exit. And so the studio model is we are hands-on, we have central resources. So from marketing, HR, technology, and dev operations, our managing founder, Amir Barsoom, who's a serial entrepreneur, co-founds with other co-founders, and they're able to really focus on building and finding that market validation and product market fit versus focusing on funding, if you will. And just to touch on that private equity side, they are typically very focused on capital efficiency and operational efficiency and not innovation. So I'd like to think we've got the innovation of venture capital and the capital and operational efficiency of private equity to really build in a smart, de-risked way so that we are focused on clear path to profitability for, $100 million, $200 million exits and not hoping for these billion-dollar exits. The shift toward lean AI startups is here. It's already here. So it's a matter of the venture world catching up to it and just understanding that it's not just the traditional venture capital or private equity model anymore, that how startups are being built. It's faster, it's leaner, and it's the way startups are being built is changing. And so educating on that, talking about it, having discussions around it, looking at data points on it, and then proving it is really going to be the path. We use a ton of tools for everything. I look at it as, I think some people are starting to look at AI as, oh, it's scary. It's going to get rid of jobs. It's going to ruin things. No, it's helping us work better, smarter, and faster. I mean, yeah. From just using like the regular ChatGPT or Claudes of the world to edit grammar or clean things up and write faster to get content out. I mean, even our dev team and tech team are using things like Operator and things like this for coding where they can just build faster, right? And you can't have just AI tools and no humans. The humans have to have the fundamental knowledge and expertise of what we're trying to do, and then using those specific AI tools to build faster and smarter. That's how I look at it. It's like a hybrid.
a hybrid way to do work. Absolutely.
Yeah. And honestly, everything we're building is hybrid as well. It's taking these really boring industries. Okay, boring might be harsh, but let's call it unsexy. Like think about long-term care, assisted living facilities. One of our first portfolio companies built a software to help manage these facilities, but most of our products have companies that we're building have some type of AI component that has made manual process, labor-intensive or manual processes more affordable, effective, and faster. But then there's also usually some type of human touch or human element. So it's the AI and the human touch working together to offer something, cheaper, faster, more efficient, easier to use, solving some type of problem.
As you see AI evolve, every company is talking about it, right? And so because we are a tech e-commerce group, we knew that we needed to develop something in-house that would allow us to stay true to our core. And so the proprietary AI that we have, the tools Antares and Altair, they're tools to allow us to audit what are the best performing creatives out there in our industry and similar adjacent industries as well. And how can we take those learnings and adapt it to the creatives that we generate? We have a huge creative team in-house where we're constantly hiring creators who, adhere to our brand positioning and our guidelines, and we're creating new scripts that we develop that on our own to ensure that we're truly speaking to the pain point of our customer and then identifying the selling points of the product itself. And so I would be lying if I said it was easy what we do. It is very intricate, complex. We've been developing this, for quite some time, and we're constantly making new learnings and new improvements with this. But in the beginning of this interview, we discussed guidelines, right? So you're asking, how can you have these tools and still make sure that you're being authentic? Well, the guidelines at the end of the day, we're training our tools to ensure that we're upholding the level, the quality that we want as a business, and then also auditing our own creatives, right? Week over week over week, and having cross collaborative input from other teams.
We have some really, really cool features for our lens that have launched this year. We've just relaunched an entire new software suite for our design and ordering platform for our lenses. We're the first lens company that had an online ordering system for scleral lenses. And so this is our new generation software. Well, it's online, it's not really software. And it's really pretty remarkable how a doctor can go in and they see all of their patients. So they, are managing their patients that they fit with Boston Sight Scleral. And then they can design the lens. So doctors can make changes in the quadrants of the lens. So in 4 parts of the lens to, go over little bumps perhaps in the cornea, the sclera. They can add channels to help there be a better oxygen flow from the lens to the eye. They can really customize the lens. And then they can track where that order is in real time. It's been very exciting to launch this new updated product. And there's also some new features in the lens. But the biggest thing we're probably going to be doing this year is actually going through that brand identity process again, because we have just accomplished so much in the last 5 years. So where do we want to be going in the next 5 years? And of course, we're looking at things like artificial intelligence and machine learning and how we can use that. We have mounds of data from patient eyes. How can we use AI to help us evaluate more of that patient data? What can we do to help more people around the world have better vision and less pain due to corneal disease?
I think right now, especially experience the emergence of AI, right? Technology has definitely caused everyone to pivot. Sometimes it's uncertain, and then sometimes we're excited about it. But the core of it for me and my business and what I try to explain to clients is you still want to have that human-centric aspect. So I think finding a balance of technology and that human aspect really is a perfect mix for immersive events. It's the perfect mix for people to engage and to connect. A lot of times, if you're attending a conference or a meeting, whereas it used to be a set agenda, now more so, people want to have liberty to create their own agendas, which introduces a lot in the wellness space, which introduces a lot in the corporate social responsibility initiatives to have a give back. So some of the principles that I live by is just really finding that balance of having that human connection, providing nostalgic moments in your meeting or events, as well as incorporating a sense of technology that can be explored and push the boundaries of curiosity. So just really having that sincere balance.
AI, you have to be very careful with. I've used AI if I have to go write a white paper or an article, kind of give me a leg up on what I need to get started with. But you can't trust what's in there. I can tell you that the AR organizations out there, the technology companies, are contacting law firms. There was one that was talking a couple of weeks ago with me about us reducing our costs by 90%. And that's interesting. And I said, so you're telling me that a 1,000-man law firm can probably furlough 90% of the staff? And he says, well, I'm not saying furlough, but what the guy corrected himself saying was they can go out and seek other additional work because they're more efficient. And I said, it really doesn't work that way. Here we may be able to take some shortcuts, but AI at the end of the day is looking for information others have written. There's other authors. There's a fear of plagiarism. You still have to check and double check everything that's going on. So at the end of the day, again, for articles, white papers, probably a good head start. to take your brain knowledge and put it in boxes that make some sense. And I've used it once. It probably saved me an hour or two, but I can assure you it took me another 6 hours to get the article where I needed it to be and be representative of our company's end product. I don't think there's going to be any shortcuts on that. Maybe for billing and other sorts of things, or maybe for marketing. But as far as an attorney writing an opinion on something, you still have to go to the books. You need to go to Lexis. You can use some AI to help you do that, but it's not going to replace anything. I think it'll help you kind of formalize what you want to present, and it'll be in a tidy, organized way. Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's more of a support tool than a replacement for an entire department.
Absolutely. Like I said, it saved me a little bit of time to do a white paper. But a majority of the work, vast majority, was wordsmithing everything, and then of course you're running it past some partners to make sure, I'm not overreaching.
Yeah. And it, like you also said, it still has to be on brand. You're going to know your organization better than AI. AI can give you a lot of general information, but to make that connection and make it more personalized to your company, your culture, your competitive advantage, you've got to bridge that gap.
Right. Yeah. And I want to own that language. So
Yeah.
if that rolls back into AI and somebody just copies it and puts their name on it, we're going to have a problem with that.
We have started. I mean, I will say in general that the nonprofit world tends to be a little bit behind the curve when it comes to adoption of newer technology. And really, there's some distrust, rightfully so, of using things like AI in a creative space as well. But I think, we do know how to use it. We have to write grants a lot. We have to do a lot of communication. We have to do a lot of brainstorming about different things. And sometimes being able to just know how to use a prompt correctly with ChatGPT, knowing that there are different AI platforms that do different things is key for us too. And it helps when you work for a nonprofit where many times we're wearing a lot of different hats and multitasking many things. It helps with that workflow if you're able to offload, an administrative task and really focus on the program work for a minute, and that helps. So we're starting, we're moving in there slowly but surely. We use it. We don't want to do it to the point where it becomes more about the technology and not as much about the people, but we definitely want to be in there, and we don't want to be left behind.
What I've seen at Better Price, and our general counsel just put together a really thoughtful set of guidance internal with our IT team, and I thought it thread the needle of, look, these tools are here, you need to understand them, but here are the cautions. And this is more from the legal perspective. Obviously, do not use it to craft legal work, but if you need for other communications, things like that, again, table stakes kind of stuff, but also had a longer term sense of, the world is changing, so we need to change with it, but here are the guardrails we need to use. So I appreciated that the firm, because I've been at firms where they just don't address it or try to lock it down, whatever it is, social media, whatever the du jour topic is that people are worried about. Within the marketing team, I was, again, very happy to see the team was already happily, quickly embracing ChatGPT. Obviously is the Google of it all, but also other tools and AI tools that are baked into products we already have. That has made me chuckle. Sometimes people go AI, and I'm like, well, we've had AI for about 10, 15 years, and a lot of things you just didn't pay any attention to it. But now it's called ChatGPT, and it seems fun. So, or Claude, or whatever gets thrown around. So we use it really to craft content so that it's compelling when we need to turn things quickly, when we need to polish and refine them, when we need to do a change in word count. But also now we're moving into how can we use AI to map our data and look at persona mapping and get to the point where we have predictive analytics around who is out there who's likely to need, again, focus on your niche. The more focused you are on your niche, then the more you can put the prompt in to say, here is what I do specifically when you look at who's consuming content and what's happening in the news for A, B, C prospect. Are they in the market for what I do? So that's where I think it will be really exciting and fun. I think the caution I have around it is they're the obvious ones, proofread what you get. Don't have it do legal work. I'm not a lawyer, so I can just say that plainly. Be thoughtful. Don't assume it's going to do your work for you, because then you're just being lazy and then you're not needed. Use it to refine the work. For example, I just submitted a session proposal for a conference, and I wrote something, and I like to write, so I've been a little resistant to have AI write anything for me. But I thought, you know what? let me see what it will do with this. And I came up with like 100 words and they wanted 200 words. And I'm like, I don't want to keep figuring out what else. So I said, make this a 200 word compelling entry with some facts and figures around the industry. And what they came back with, I'm like, great. And then I tweaked it and refined it. And then there was another section about what are the key takeaways. All right, give me what could I, so using it as almost a co-editor, I think can be very powerful. But again, don't sleep on it. Don't just go cut and paste. It's done. I mean, use it to refine and think about the point of view you have when you're working with it. And the other caution I would have is for the bean counters out there, and I'm not sure if that's an offensive term, but I use it. Don't assume now with AI you can cut heads. Maybe you can, but the truth of the matter is you're finally going to get to a point with your marketing and your operational staff where they can breathe. Too many firms manage their operational staff by how busy they are. I remember a firm a couple years ago, I said, I need an assistant. I'm dying on the vine. I was a solo marketer there. Well, if we have an assistant, what will you do? And I said, think, strategize, have a moment to myself. That's healthy. That's good. Don't talk about wellness and well-being and go, oh, now with AI, we can cut half our staff. No, you're finally going to have your staff to a point where they can level up, where they can think bigger, where they can do innovative things because the piecework, the chamber submission, the pitch and proposal, that all got pulled together quickly. The research got pulled together quickly, but now they can actually read it and give you some information. Because all my career, 25 years, we've turned reports around healthcare and they'd say, well, you sent us this report, but what does it mean? I'm like, I don't know. You wanted it in 10 minutes. So I didn't have time to look at it.
Yeah.
Give me an hour,
I had to meet the deadline.
Yeah. So think about it, builds in some space and air. And if you have too much space and air, people are sitting around doing nothing, okay, then use the opportunity to restructure if you need to. But don't make that jump too quickly because you're also going to lose a lot of institutional knowledge that you need to feed in to these prompts.
I mean, language learning models are incredible, and it's interesting because there's this process from HR that started like 20 some odd years ago with the introduction of ATS systems, right? Where they pretty much like started screening out like the different levels of people in different ways. And it's like overlooking like the advance of technology, especially in job seeker area. It's so fascinating to me because there's on one hand, all of these tools to make our lives easier, but on the other hand, without responsibility and oversight of these tools, it becomes an absolute boondoggle of a mess, right? Which we're kind of seeing right now. But it isn't like, I feel like it's like, oh, have you ever heard that saying like, oh, you're an overnight success? It's like, these problems aren't just overnight problems. Like it's like a symptom of something that's been going on for a really long time. So when you ask the question of like, what's shaping things, I mean, language learning models are really, but really looking through AI is the hottest topic, right? But looking through the history of advancing technology, like how many of us would say on one side that the job we do right now is the job we would have had 20 years ago? Like, I'm pretty sure my job might have existed, maybe. Probably not. But at the same time, like a lot of the fallout we're seeing of reshaping, reforming has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting conundrum because a lot of people I definitely feel are like kind of expressing that they feel like this is an overnight success. And now I feel caught off guard almost. And so it's like, okay, how much is it our responsibility to like learn and pivot versus okay, how many pivots are there really going to happen? I'm a millennial. Like this is like the 500th time I've had to like pivot, So, that's a huge subject to kind of unpack. I mean, we can dive into like job seeker ATS versus AI and like the experiences there. And there's just a lot to unpack in that area.
I have one interesting term to share. For me, I always love the term B2H, business to human.
Wow.
End of the day, no matter what AI, machine learning come in, we use daily ChatGPT. End of the day, it's business to human. It's Cindy talk to Kelly. It's us and the consumer. So at some point, as a marketing, that's why earlier I talked about it's a little bit of art, because you cannot just use the AI to build your content. In the end, you have to stepping back, understand who is your consumer, who is your customer, who is your client. Remember B2H. We always do business to human. That's a secret sauce.
And honestly, I feel like while I agree with you 100%, especially in terms of AI, I get the appeal. I understand the need to try to scale and this, that, and the third. However, I do believe that those who focus on B to H will be the standout in years to come, because at some point you reach a plateau if we're all just plugging something in very generic and getting something out very generic in terms of AI, then we all start saying the same thing. I think eventually what will come out in the wash are those companies that prioritize that business to human to some degree. It doesn't mean they don't use AI for certain things, but there still has to be that human element. I think that will be the secret, when this all sort of reaches a plateau.
I think even the evolution of some of the tools, I work very bare bones for the podcast. So even Zoom has recently incorporated an AI tool that captures a summary of the conversation. And so the way I work is I record ahead of time and then return to the episodes as they're airing. So I'll have them kind of in a bank almost and then pull them as I go. And so it's extremely efficient for me to have those notes to remember the conversation and what was the most important takeaways for me. So it's not necessarily that I use the summary verbatim for anything I'm posting, but I definitely use it as a reference point, and it helps me be a lot quicker, especially after work, because that's when I'm working on putting these together at night and my brain isn't at full capacity. I think the other thing that's amazing about AI is the ability to help you just from a starting point. Like if you're having trouble even with an idea or starting a thought, or you have an idea and it's like, I want to make this work. Like, what can I do to really bring this to fruition? AI is an amazing sounding board. I use it constantly for this is a sentence that I want to get right about someone, and it'll just kind of spit out some ideas, and I'm like, oh yes, okay, yes, like that's what I need to just get me moving. And I do that even in my day-to-day work too.
Yeah.
It's made me so much quicker and faster. And I always tell people, I'm like, I don't use it for fact checking ever, because that's still very unreliable. Right? We all know that. That's not what you use it for. For me, it's all about efficiency, creativity, and those lulls that you used to get where you feel block at any point. Like I feel like that doesn't exist anymore because of AI. So definitely leaning into that. I also am a huge fan of a platform called Descript. It's a recording thing that's similar to Riverside and others, but for that one, it's great at even summarizing and pulling out takeaways from conversations and things. And I don't always use it, but again, if you're just looking for some inspiration, it's a great tool.